If you're looking for the most effective schemes for the Madden 21 season, make sure to head over to acemadden.com. Our Pro and Elite memberships offer you access to over 10 ebooks that our pro players from TNC are going to be releasing over the next 12 months. And if you want to become a member, make sure to use code ACE for 10% off at checkout. What's up guys, it's your boy Ace, and today we're going to be going over a full defensive adjustment guide. And this is going to be aimed more towards beginners. So if you're an advanced player who has full control over your defense, you know how to navigate all the menus and you know all the controls, this might not be a good video for you. However, feel free to jump around with the timestamps I have available and see if you can pick up any bits of information. But like I said, this is going to be aimed more towards new players or players who don't really know how to fully adjust their defense. One thing I need to mention is I do have another Google Doc that's in the description of this video that has every single control in both Xbox and PS4 format, and that will be a good reference for you guys if you do not have a firm grasp on these controls. So let's get right into it. Okay, so let's start with our defensive line and how we can adjust them. So it's very simple. D-pad left, that's going to open your defensive line menu. If you look in the bottom left, you'll see that we have two headers in green. One says Shift D-line, one says point of attack. So these are actually really common. Many of you guys will probably know how to use these, and they're self-explanatory. So once you open up this menu, if you want to shift your D-line to the left, obviously left stick left. To the right, there you go. Very easy to grasp because it's visual, and I'm sure you guys, unless you are just now learning Madden, you probably know how to do that one. So it's pretty easy. It can be very important for you to know how to do this in regards to run defenses, blitz setups, defensive setups. You do need to know how to use the defensive line adjustments. Next, we'll talk about the crashing. So it'll say point of attack, but a lot of YouTubers or myself will say crash. So if you are confused by that, that's all it means. Nobody really says slant outside. They will say crash outside or crash right, crash left. You'll see what happens if you crash left. Look at our pass rush angles. They're a little bit different. Crash right, you'll see that they go the other way. Crash down, crash up. So they're all different pass rush angles, and it does matter for run defense and defensive setups and blitzes and all that kind of stuff. The next thing I'm going to talk about is your individual adjustments for your defensive line. So once you're in this menu, after you hit D-pad left, if you hit D-pad left again, you now have these icons come up above your defensive line. You're going to see we have X, Y, and A. If you're on PS4, obviously it's going to be a little bit different. But all you have to do is select the player you want to adjust. So I will say, I'll select one of them right now. I will say these adjustments are very uncommon. The only one you're going to be using really is quarterback spy. If you're going to put a defensive lineman in something, it'll either be a spy, or if he's like zoned up because of the stock play you're in, you might want to blitz him with right stick down. But overall, those are really the two adjustments you're going to use. I wouldn't recommend putting them in any zones. Now, there will be very special use cases for those, or like maybe a bluff blitz or something. So we'll put like this guy. One thing I didn't mention is you can actually highlight your defensive lineman and hit A or X, and you can individually adjust them that way. I prefer to use our linebacker, so you're going to just double tap your D-pad to the left and then select A. And I'll put him on a bluff blitz, which is going to be right stick to the right. And now you can see he's in a 3-rec. That can be useful. There are cases for that. But generally speaking, you do not really want to put them in anything besides a spy. But just get a good look at the menu. You will see that you have many options to put them in different zones. Hard flats can be decent. I just don't recommend it because you always want to have at least three rushing. And in this case, like for instance, this will be our third rusher, and he's never gonna win against that right tackle. So you really just want to keep that guy there. But that's gonna be it for our defensive line. Let's move on to our linebackers. Okay, let's talk about our linebacker adjustments. So I'm gonna base the line just so I can illustrate a little bit better for you guys. But how to open the linebacker menu is going to be D-pad to the right. If you look in the bottom left, you'll see we do have two headers that say shift linebackers and linebacker assignments. So shifting is the same thing as what we did with our defensive line. You'll see if we shift our linebackers left, they move left. Shift them, we'll pinch them. You'll see that they just move accordingly. I'm not going to go over that one too much because it's just very obvious. As far as the linebacker assignments go, this one's going to be a pretty special use case, but I mean, I do find myself using it maybe a couple times a game. But let's use this as an example. So first of all, let's say we come out in a play. It's just like an all-out blitz like this. Well, what happens if you want to back out into coverage and you want to do it quickly? Well, what you would do is you would do D-pad right and then right stick up, and that's going to zone out all of your linebackers. So this isn't necessarily a good shell or anything because you have two hook curls defending the same part of the field, and you don't want that. So obviously I would just like man him up on A, and I would usually do it like that. I would switch over to him, then hit A or X, and then man coverage onto A, and that's the quick way to do it for me personally. So if you want to do the opposite, you would obviously just do D-pad right, right stick down, and now all our linebackers are blitzing. So this is just kind of a quick shortcut if you want to skip a step. It doesn't always save you a step. It just kind of depends. But yeah, like let's say you want to just back out of our all-out blitz into coverage. That's what you would do. And then I could maybe just like drop back and defend between the safeties or whatever. It's just a quick way to zone up. As far as the rest of the menu, if you want to individually adjust your linebackers, which I do prefer doing, I would do D-pad to the right one more time, and you'll see that just like our defensive line, we now have icons above our linebackers. So I'll go ahead and select one of them, and you'll see that we have these zones available to us. All of these that you see are usable. All of these will be ones like certain adjustments that you'll use throughout the game, and you need to get very comfortable with this menu. So like I said in the description, we do have the Google Docs, so you can look at that and get familiar with all of these. I'm not going to go over what each of these does, but I will say that all of them are usable. You'll see that we have our middle third available to us, common adjustment between a Tampa 2. You have a mid-read available to you. It's not always going to be available to you. It kind of depends on the formation, I'm pretty sure, and like which linebacker you're using. Like sometimes, excuse me, I have hiccups, but this middle linebacker will have the mid-read, and maybe sometimes this guy won't. So keep that in mind. But most of these are going to be available to your linebackers, and I recommend using all of them. So one thing you're going to recognize with 3-3-5, specifically the formation that we're in, we're on our outside linebacker right now, and if you do right stick up, that's going to give you the option to man up on anybody. That's not going to be an option in all formations. Sometimes you will only be able to man up onto eligible receivers on the same side of the field as you. But in this case, if I want to man up on X, I can man up on X, and that's a good cross man. Let's say he comes across on a in route. Actually, I'm so stupid. I was using the guy I just cross-manned, and it doesn't work that way. Okay, so let's actually do it properly this time. Let's go ahead and man up onto X, get off of Queen this time, and we'll drag X. We'll get some of these guys just out of the way just to illustrate the cross man. This is a really common setup right now, or a really common adjustment. And you'll see that since the wide receiver is running into our cross man, so basically he's running from left to right, our cross man player is on the right, you'll see what happens is we do have that route pretty much completely bagged. And that is a common thing to do, especially at a 3-3-5, because you'll see what happens. And I can do a more specific video on this, but like for instance, I'll do it on both sides now. And we'll put both of these receivers on a drag, and we'll just go ahead and let it play out, see what happens. And you'll see that this is a really efficient way to stop maybe someone who keeps throwing drags at you. You'll see that both of these drags get pretty much completely bagged, and it's not going to be a comfortable throw for them. I mean, yeah, they might have like a step or something, but they're not going to really want to throw these. I mean, they do have like a window that they could throw it like right there, but he's going to get popped because this guy right here, he's looking at him, and he's going to just, you can just hit stick him. And I don't recommend throwing drags into crossmans. So that's it for our linebacker menu. Let's get into our secondary. Next, we're going to talk about our secondary and how to adjust them. It's going to be wired triangle. That's going to open this menu that says coverage adjustments. And a lot of these are common, like press, baseline. I'll go over baseline real quick, but baseline is going to give you, actually was already baseline, so that's why they just moved. But baseline is going to give you like the stock look from the play call screen. So you'll notice that this cornerback is way out here, and there's no receiver out there. So what's the point of him being there? Well, baseline will make it easy for you to set up certain plays in regards to certain blitzes. It'll bring guys in closer. It'll keep guys in the box, and it'll help, like for instance, versus like inside zone, because we now have linebackers in the box as opposed to being out there with the trips, and it just helps us in the run game a little bit more, and as well as setting up blitzes. So baseline is left stick to the right, press left stick down. That's going to bring all of your secondary down, except for your safeties in this case, but it's going to press your cornerbacks, and they're now in the receiver's faces. They will get hands on them. Show blitz is not something you're going to use too often. I'll show you. If you show blitz and then you try to pinch your D-line, they will not fully pinch. You can't shift them right, you can't shift them left. That's the reason I don't like show blitz, because it kind of limits your adjustments on your defense. So I prefer press. As far as the shading goes, if you look on the right side, you'll see we'll have over the top, outside, underneath, and inside. People will refer to this as shading your coverage. So people will say shade up, shade down, shade outside, shade inside. But you can also say shade over the top, shade underneath. That's going to help you in certain ways. So if you go into I'll go to cover 0 and I'll press, and you'll see what happens is if we do shade over the top, right stick up, and then I actually like to shade inside after that. So right stick left. You'll see what happens is we'll run like verticals, and we basically have better outside defense. We do not get burnt nearly as badly. So we can run cover 0 more comfortably. So make sure to take advantage of shading. That's going to be a concept many of you new players have no idea what the hell that does. Basically, it just tells your secondary to play a certain way. And if you shade over the top, you're going to be less likely to get burned over the top. So that's a good way to think about it. As far as the other adjustments at the bottom, you'll see that we have man align, sticks, quick adjust, and individual. I'll quickly go over protect the sticks. Protect the sticks, all that does is, let's say it's 3rd and 20, so your opponent needs 20 yards to get to the first down marker. And what protect the sticks is going to do, which is Y and then LB or L1 on PS4, it's going to drop all of your zones to the first down marker. So why would you want that? So the purpose of it really is just to keep everything in front of you, and then you can rally up and make the tackle. You'll see that a lot in real football. You'll see that it's like 3rd and 20. All of the defenders will be like really far back, and they'll just kind of sit and wait. And then as soon as the ball gets out of the quarterback's hands, they basically attack the ball carrier, and they will rally up and make that tackle. So that's what you want to use protect the sticks for. It's not as important this year because you do have zone drops. So you're not going to use it too much, but it's still a feature in the game. Man align. This one's a unique one. So when a smart player sees that you are aligned like this, he's going to know it's zone coverage. At least the stock play he knows is zone coverage, because this cornerback is over here on the tight end side and not over here on top of B. So what does this mean? If you hit RB or R1 after opening the secondary menu, you'll see what happens is our cornerback will now be over B. So when a smart player sees this, he's not going to know that you're in zone coverage. It could very well be man coverage. Now, I wouldn't say it's super obvious, because this guy would usually kind of stay in here, and this would look more like man coverage. But I know that because I play the game a lot. Not everybody's going to know that. So when they see this, they're going to be like, you know what? It might be man coverage. And it's good to disguise your defense like that. What happens if you motion this guy? You're going to see that our play art will change. I actually want to go back real quick just to show you. If you use this feature, if you use man align, I recommend holding LT. In this case, I have to hold right stick up to see my play art. But you want to look at your zones, because if you do man align with zones, you're going to see that they switch around. And you want to make sure you know exactly what's going on with those. So in this case, the cornerback follows back over. He's not going to know that you're in zone coverage. So that's the point of man align. It also helps with, things like inside zone. Go to inside zone real quick. We now have a man over we just got gashed because I didn't properly really set up a defense. But the point is, you now have an extra defender over there on the trip side, and that's going to help with your numbers on the left. So, yeah, we just got completely gashed, but it's kind of besides the point. We now have a guy over here that wasn't there before, which now occupies that receiver. Hopefully this all makes sense. I'm trying my best not to ramble here. So let's go ahead and go over the rest of these. And it's going to be, the last one's going to be quick adjust. Well, I will go over individual pretty briefly. But quick adjust, what that's going to do is if you hit it again, just like the linebackers and a defensive line, we can hit the icon of the secondary player that we want to adjust. So if we hit X, you'll see that this is going to come up. We have play zone and assignments. They're all pretty much zones except for the individual man up. But if you do right stick up, you're going to see that you can man up on everybody on the same side of the field as him. Generally speaking, you're going to man up on the guy who's right in front of him. So press where he's now manned up. I'll go ahead and shade over the top, shade inside. And you'll see that we now have man coverage over there. Maybe put Y in a curl flat. So double tap Y, Y. And then we'll do left stick to the right. He's going to put him in a curl flat. And now we have a nice little wrinkle to our defensive shell. This is something where maybe his first read is X. And he's going to see that he's in man coverage. Maybe he will assume the rest of the defense is in man coverage. Who knows? Some people do that. They'll just make their first read and they'll try to tell what the coverage is based off their first read. So it's good to have little adjustments like this that just make it really hard for your opponent to know what you're doing on defense. So you can do that with anybody. You're going to see with our slot cornerback, we have different adjustments than our outside cornerback. You'll see that he has these zones available to him. This is going to be in the doc that's located in the description of the video. You'll see what exact zones he can be in. But if you look at this, you'll see we have seam flat available to us. And if we do the outside cornerback, he does not have that. He has, the outside zones, outside third, outside quarter, deep half. Go back to the slot corner. You're going to see he doesn't have these available to him. He has a different set of adjustments. So if you want to actually bluff blitz your slot corner, you can. What that's going to do is right stick right, and that's going to put him in a 3-rec. So what is a 3-rec? I'm not going to get too detailed with it, but his job is to really travel with the number 3 receiver. And what that's going to do is it's going to help with certain routes across the middle. So if they have a drag coming from left to right, he's going to go with them. So I'll show you. We'll do Y on a drag. You can see what happens. We now have the 3-rec going to the middle of the field. It kind of looks like a spy, but he's not. He's actually playing in a zone. So that's an adjustment you can do. But all of these are good adjustments. All of these you need to learn. Same with your linebackers. The only one you don't really need to memorize is your defensive line because you only put those guys in spies. But you just keep that in mind that you do have different zones for all three. For the 3 different players in your secondary, which are going to be your outside cornerbacks, your slot cornerbacks, and your safeties. So if you hit LB, we now have different zones as opposed to the slot corner and the outside corner. So you can see we have inside quarter, inside third, deep half. You'll see inside third or inside quarter. You'll see that it looks like this as opposed to, it looks the same on the outside, but I can't put this guy here that I'm using in an outside quarter. He has to be on an inside quarter, which makes sense. But I'm just letting you guys know there are limitations with what you can do in regards to adjusting each member of the secondary. One more time, we do have all of the controls in the doc, which are located in the description of the video. So if you guys have any troubles, just refer to that doc and it's going to help you out. And then as far as the other adjustment goes, which is individual, it's going to be A or X. This one is a pretty advanced adjustment because what you're doing here is you're adjusting based on one receiver. So for instance, if I hit X, well, let's say I don't want to get burned. Let's say it's Tyreek Hill, which is X. Well, DK is pretty fast himself, but let's say I just don't want to get burned by him. Let's just back off. Right stick up. That's going to back off that guy, that cornerback, without backing off the rest of your defense. So I'll show you if you press. Well, he didn't fully press because I already adjusted him, but let me just show you a better example here. Let's go ahead and press my full defense. So Y or triangle, left stick down, that's going to press. And then what we'll do after this is we'll hit Y and then A or X, and then hit X again, which is DK. He's our outside receiver. And then I'm going to back off of him with right stick up. So you see how our whole team is still pressed, or our other cornerback and our slot cornerback are both pressed? Well, now that guy's backed off, and we can feel a lot more confident that if we have Tyreek Hill over there, that he's going to be bagged, and we won't get beat over the top. In this case, it's cover 2, so it doesn't really matter. But let's say he's in an outside third, and you'll see we have no chance of getting burned by Tyreek Hill when he's backed off like this. So that's a good adjustment to know if you don't want to compromise your press in different parts of the field. The shading, I wouldn't mess with it. I think that's super advanced. They're like very special use cases for individual shading. I would recommend using the back off and the press, which is right stick up and right stick down. There we go. We just pressed them back down. And then as far as spotlight goes, I don't think anybody really knows what spotlight receiver does. Sometimes it will help you bag a route, but I don't think anybody knows inherently what it does. If you guys know in the comment section, like you can give me proof of what it does, feel free to let me know. I just have never heard anybody tell or explain how spotlight receiver works. But apparently it's just to give more attention. It gives your defense more attention to that receiver. So that's pretty much the gist of it. That's going to be your secondary adjustments. Let's move on into our full defensive adjustments. The last part of the video is going to be your full defensive adjustments. How do you access this? Well, it's just going to be RB or R1. You're going to see we have this menu come up. We can shift our defense or we can guess the play. So one thing I want to mention is a really common adjustment is located out of here, which is going to be quarterback contain. So the way you quarterback contain and put your defensive line on contains would be RB once and then RB again, and now your defensive line is on contains. That is the most common thing you're going to be using out of here. Well, it kind of depends on what defense you're running, but that is really necessary for you to know. The rest of it, for instance, would be like if you want to pinch your entire defense. I do this a lot. I'll do RB and then left stick down, and that's going to pinch your defensive line. It's going to pinch your linebackers, and it's also going to press your cornerback. So let me go ahead and snap this ball, and I'll give you a better illustration of what pinch defense does. So RB or R1, left stick down, that's going to press our cornerbacks. It's going to pinch our defensive line, and it's going to pinch our linebackers. It pinches your entire defense. And associate press with pinch because that's what your cornerbacks are doing. If you do spread, this one's not too common. It's going to just spread everybody. And the only time you would ever do this is if you're kind of trying to defend a Hail Mary. And I wouldn't even really do it then. I don't recommend this adjustment. It's just really bad. You're going to give up a lot of big plays if you use this. You can shift your D-line or you shift your entire defense left. That doesn't really do anything with your secondary, but it does mess with your front seven. So I'll go back to pinch. And then on the right side, you'll notice we have guess play. So this is where pass commit comes in. This is where run commit comes in. So what you can do, pass commit is going to help your defensive line get after the quarterback because they're going to know it's a pass. So for instance, let's say it's 3rd and 15. Well, you can go ahead and pass commit, and that's going to help your defensive line get a better win rate from their pass rush because they don't have to worry about playing the edge or playing run fits and all that kind of stuff. They can just get after the quarterback. Run commit, you have to guess which way the run's going. So in this case, an inside zone is going to be going to the left. So I would either run commit to the middle or run commit left. I usually just use run commit middle. personally, so I'll do right stick down. You'll see what happens. Our guys are all just going to come flying down because we know it's a run. Well, what's the negative to doing a run commit up the middle? Well, really what the main negative is if they decide to pass, we are going to get beat for a one-play touchdown. So it does have a pro and it does have a con. If you really, really know it's a run, have at it. You can use run commit, and it's a good feature. It actually works this year. Last year it didn't work. You couldn't even use run commit last year. Pass commit, you can use it. You're going to play certain people who are kind of weird, and they might like run an inside zone on a 3rd and 12. And it's going to hurt your defensive line because they don't really expect the run, and they're going to play the run a little bit weaker. So keep that part in mind. But generally, yeah, you can use pass commit on like a 3rd and 12 or 3rd and long. If you look in the bottom, you'll see that we have option quarterback, option running back, and quarterback contain. We've already talked about quarterback contain. But what that's going to do is, like, let's say it's a read option, and you want to basically take away one part of the read option. Well, you would basically do it like this. You would hit RB, and then you would hit option quarterback. So, like, if you wanted to take away the quarterback keeping the ball, what would happen is your defensive line, let me just actually show you an example. I'm sorry, this is going to be a long video, but I didn't know what other way to really do this video than to really just kind of flesh it out a little bit. Okay, so we know it's a read option, and here's what we're going to do. I want to take the ball away from Russell Wilson, and I want to make sure that he hands it off to his running back. So what we're going to do is we're going to hit RB, and then we're going to hit option quarterback. And what that's going to do is our key defender or our read defender is going to play Russell Wilson. He's going to basically stand straight up, and he's going to wait for Russell to take the handoff. What the user will then do is he will hand it off to the running back, which is exactly what we want. We want to make sure it's a one-dimensional play. So I'll hit A. If you look, I think it's the defensive end on the right is our read defender. So we'll go ahead and show you. See how he plays Russell Wilson? And that is going to prevent your opponent from basically taking off with his quarterback with the read option. You get exactly what you want. You don't have to play any guessing games. You can just designate which of the two you want to play. You can do the same thing with option running back. So in this case, you're going to see the defensive end will now crash down on the running back. So we'll go ahead and hand it off, and you see how he chases the running back. So what would happen if you hit, let's say, option quarterback, and then you hand it off to the running back? Or actually, I'll do a better example. Option running back, and I'll take off with my quarterback. So you see what happens is we can now take off with Russell Wilson because that read defender went with the running back. All right, so that's going to be it for the video. I know this was kind of a long-winded one, and some of it was ramble, but I tried my best. It really was a hard video to film because I kind of have to go over everything just in case there are certain people new to the game that don't really understand what some of the things are or how to do them. So I had to really flesh it out a little bit. Hopefully you guys aren't too bored with this video, but I do have the timestamps so you guys can jump around and not get too bored with all of this. But like I said, doc in the description. Hopefully this helped. Let me know in the comment section if it did. Drop that like and make sure to subscribe for that daily Madden 21 content, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.